Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today because, honestly, we're tackling something of a culinary holy grail. We're going to look at exactly how to take a classic, universally beloved, but undeniably messy dish and completely transform it into an effortless casserole bake. If you're someone who loves big, comforting Italian-American flavors, but you just don't have the time or energy for a massive kitchen project on a Tuesday night, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to the mechanics of this recipe. Okay, let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room right off the bat. We all love chicken parm, right? But the frying, yeah, not so much. Traditional chicken parmesan is incredible, but the process can literally turn your kitchen into a disaster zone. You've got the heavy three-step breading station, the splattering oil all over your stovetop, the constant babysitting of the hot pan, and don't even get me started on the messy cleanup afterwards. It's exactly why most of us reserve this dish for ordering out at restaurants rather than actually making it at home. So the contrast we're looking at today is incredibly clear. On one hand, you have the traditional, super labor-intensive method, the breading, the frying, the whole messy shebang. But on the other hand, we have this brilliantly smart solution, a casserole-style bake. This method gives you all that juicy, tender chicken and that highly sought-after, crunchy, cheesy coating, but without a single drop of frying oil. It's just a complete reimagining of the cooking process. And the best part, it sacrifices absolutely zero texture. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll talk about rethinking chicken parmesan. Second, building a flavor foundation. Third, layering sauce and herbs. Fourth, the real cheese rule. And finally, assembly and perfect baking. We are basically going to deconstruct this dish, layer by layer, so you can see exactly how its massive flavors are built from the ground up.
All right, part one, rethinking chicken parmesan.
Which brings us straight into part two. Building a flavor foundation. Okay, so before a single piece of chicken even touches the dish, we have to create a base infusion. You're going to take a 9 by 13-inch casserole dish and coat the bottom with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 cloves of crushed and finely chopped garlic, and a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, though, you can totally adjust that heat to your liking. The crucial takeaway here is that by putting these intense aromatics at the very bottom, they heat up in the oil as the dish bakes. It creates this incredible foundational flavor base that actively infuses the chicken from underneath. Next up is part 3, layering sauce and herbs. The culinary science behind this simple combo is just beautiful. You take 2 cups of prepared marinara sauce, pour it directly over the chicken, and immediately top it with a 1/4 cup of chopped fresh basil. Actually, you can even use a bit more marinara if you're someone who prefers a saucier dish. But here's the thing. Pouring the marinara over the chicken basically acts as a braising liquid. It locks in all the meat's moisture during the bake, and meanwhile, that fresh basil adds an absolutely vibrant aromatic lift. Seriously, if you skip the fresh basil, the flavor profile of the whole dish will just kind of flatten out. It's a small addition, but it does some incredibly heavy lifting. Moving right along to part 4, the real cheese rule. I honestly love how bluntly the source material puts this. Quote, "Fake Parmesan will not taste the same. Go buy some real Parmigiano Reggiano, please." You really need to consider this an absolute non-negotiable culinary law for this bake. Since we aren't using traditional seasoned breadcrumbs to carry the flavor of the dish, we are relying entirely on the quality of our dairy to provide that savory, salty umami kick. High-quality real Parmigiano Reggiano is 100% mandatory if you want to achieve that correct, authentic flavor profile. So let's look at exactly how we use those premium ingredients to build that perfect crunchy cheesy coating. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of that real Parmigiano Reggiano we just talked about, an 8-ounce package of shredded mozzarella, and here's the absolute secret weapon, a 5-ounce package of garlic croutons. Notice how the recipe specifically calls for the cheeses to be divided. You sprinkle half the mozzarella and half the Parmesan over the basil, then you add the croutons, and finally top the whole thing off with the remaining cheeses. This specific interlacing of melting cheese and garlic croutons acts as this brilliant, structurally sound substitute for traditional breading. It's exactly how you get that perfect crunchy, cheesy texture.
And finally, part 5, assembly and perfect baking.
Here is how all those steps come together. First, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 175 degrees Celsius. Second, prep the bottom of your dish with that oil, garlic, and red pepper flakes base. Third, arrange the chicken breasts. Fourth, logically stack your marinara, the basil, half the cheese blend, and your croutons. Fifth, crown the whole thing with the remaining cheese. And finally, pop it in the oven. It's just a perfectly logical sequence where every single layer serves a specific purpose for that final bake, which is going to take anywhere from 35 minutes to an hour. But wait, how do you know exactly when it's done within that 35 to 60-minute window? Well, you absolutely must hit this critical food safety and quality metric, 160 degrees Fahrenheit, or 70 degrees Celsius. Grab an instant read thermometer, insert it into the absolute thickest part of a chicken breast, and make sure it hits this exact number. This is the sweet spot that ensures your chicken is perfectly safe to eat while still remaining remarkably tender and juicy. Aside from the temperature, we've also got a crucial visual cue to look for. You want to bake it until the cheese and croutons are golden brown and the chicken is no longer pink inside. See, because baking time can vary so wildly depending on the shape and thickness of the 6 chicken breast halves you bought, relying on this golden brown visual cue at the top of the casserole is really just as important as setting your timer. When that top is golden and bubbling away and your thermometer reads 160, you pull it out and serve it hot. Which really leaves us with this final thought. Now that you know this entire flavor architecture, how the garlic oil infuses from the bottom, how the marinara traps all that moisture, and how real Parmigiano Reggiano layered with croutons builds that perfect crust on top, are you ever going to go back to frying chicken again? By just focusing on ingredient quality and smart, purposeful layering, you've unlocked a way to build massive, classic Italian-American flavor on a random weeknight completely without the mess. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy cooking!